Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are in northern Manitoba on Lake Athabasca, and I'm going to show you a little tip on how to rig your tube jig. It worked especially well for ice fishing. You may have seen it before in an older video where we fish it like this on Great Slave Lake, and it works awesome up there. You can jig it or troll it, but today we're going to utilize this bait ice fishing, and we've added an additional little step in there of rigging that helps to pick up some picky lake trout. You get a little bit more action on this bait, and it really works to help pick up these trout. But we're going to show you today how we rig it and how it's set up. We're going to get in this hut and start fishing. All right, let's get this bait out of the water and show you what we're working with here. I'm fishing in 54 feet of water. I'm on a deep submerged reef here, surrounded by deep water. But here we go. So this is the bait that I am talking about. You've seen this rigging before in an old video of mine, but this is another version of it. So what we've done here is we've taken a 2-ounce inline line weight. So this is just your standard Berkeley Havoc 5-inch tube. And what we've done now is we've taken a split ring on the back of this tube. You can see right there. And we've rigged it up with a Rapala VMC bladed treble. So that bladed treble adds so much more action to the base of this lure, and it just throws in some vibration there, which really can help get these picky lake trout to strike. And we just got it tied directly here. We got fluorocarbon on. We got 17-pound fluorocarbon, and we've got a 25-pound braid on this, but also running a 42-inch medium heavy 13 fishing Omen rod, and you know, just a little bit larger reel, a 2000 series reel here. And this setup works great for ice fishing lake trout, but this is the bait we are running. So now what this does is it changes the profile of the bait. So traditional tube rigs have it rigged horizontal, and people will argue that that's better because they say, you know, it mimics a bait fish, but you know, the horizontal presentation, they say it darts around. Well, this still darts around like this, but this gets this blade rocking on the bottom, and it's very streamlined. So a lot of these strikes when you're fishing lake trout, especially through the ice and you're jigging, they come from underneath. These fish come from underneath, or they catch it on the fall. They notice it dropping in their field of view, and they dart in, but they hit the bait from underneath. So when you're running a traditional tube jig with a horizontal profile and the single hook, we've actually experimented with it. We've done both head-to-head. This bait with the treble on the bottom gets by far more hookups than the bait with the single hook on the horizontal presentation. This profile works extremely well because all those strikes are coming from the bottom. These fish are chasing it. They're chasing it fast. They're chasing it from underneath. And if you need to pop this and get some action out of it, you know, it will dart around. You can pop it, it flies that way, it flies this way, and it flutters around. But the blade adds that extra little vibration underneath, can attract some fish from further away, and can piss them off and get them to strike. So when we look back and we analyze the tube jig and we think about what they were designed for, a tube jig was actually designed for bass fishing. And what it was meant to represent was a crawfish moving along the bottom. So you couldn't rig it like this with a treble on the rear, because you would just get snagged up and hung up on every weed and every little thing on the bottom. That single treble would be dragging right through the dirt and just pick up everything. You'd get so many snags that way. So that is why traditional tubes have a single hook rigged in that fashion, is because that hook sits on the top when you're dragging it along the bottom. So when you're fishing lake trout, you're not dragging a tube across the bottom. I mean, you might in open water situations sometimes, but the majority of the time you're going to be jigging a tube jig, and your strikes are going to come from the bottom. So that is why we've changed this rigging to this style, because it just makes more sense. Why stick with something that was designed for something else? Modify it to the needs that you have, and that's what we've done here. Because it just improves your number of hooked fish, and it just improves the whole design on the tube, really. And tubes and lake trout go hand in hand. I mean, I don't know anybody that fishes lake trout that doesn't have tube jigs in their arsenal. So it's just another way of rigging, and it's another way of getting this done, and it just adds to your box of tools. You know, the greater your arsenal is, the more fish you're going to catch. So hopefully this will get you out there and catch more fish this way, and you know, enjoy your time on the water. Well, I just hooked up on one here, but mid-column. Unfortunately, didn't get the hook set. My one camera is frozen. I can see the screen of it here, just glitching GoPro all the time. But yeah, just hooked up with this fish mid-column. I was just working it from the bottom to the top. Oh, he's gonna take a run. He's getting a little mad when he sees that daylight here. There's my leader. Oh, barbless hooks here in Manitoba. So I'm just making sure not to give him any reason to shake that hook. There he is. Just a little laker. Check that out. Nice. The inline tube jig strikes again. This fish came from underneath. I was working up the water column and he smacked it. Just a nice little laker from Lake Trout here in northern Manitoba. We're gonna get him right back, and yeah, we're gonna fish for some more. Get this guy right back here. Man, they just don't want to be released nicely today, do they? All right, we're gonna get back down there and catch another fish. Okay, so how we're gonna work this bait, what we're gonna do, you can see on the live scope here, I'm fishing in 54 feet of water, and we're on a submerged reef here. This reef comes up to about 40 feet on the north end of it. I'm on the south end of it right now. Surrounding me is about 100 to 80 feet of water, depending on where you're at. So we're gonna drop this straight to the bottom. I'm gonna hit the bottom, and deeper water, it's hard to see it on the live scope there. It'll pick it up here eventually. Gotta get your settings precise for this kind of deep water fishing with a live scope. But okay, so I'm dropping it right to bottom. I'm gonna jig up the bottom a bit, stir it up, try to attract some fish. Nothing happening on the live scope. What I'm gonna do is just remember not to stick on the bottom the whole time. You're gonna wanna work the whole column, and that's gonna attract a lot of fish. They're gonna see the movement of that bait from far, moving up and down the water column. They're also going to be fish traveling higher in the water column, and those fish are usually more active to strike. The ones hanging along the bottom, they can be interested, but they don't always strike. So the ones that are cruising high in the water column are usually the ones that are actively searching for food. So we constantly want to work that water column. We don't just want to jig the bottom the whole time, but you can catch a lot of lake trout on the bottom still, so don't just work the rest of the water column. But so what we're going to do, we drop it straight to bottom. I'm going to work the bottom a bit, see if there's any fish hanging out there. If nothing's happening there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work it up. I'm going to jig it up a bit, a foot or two, jig it up, stop, you know, pause it, jig it up, and I'm going to work that water column from the bottom to the top. And you know, sometimes you can stop midway, you can stop, you know, subsurface, drop back to the bottom, but a lot of times that rise and fall of the bait is what's going to attract these lake trout, especially when you're in a stationary position such as ice fishing situation. You know, you have to really work your bait to get fish to come to you. You want to be on a key location that fish do frequent, but working your bait, getting a little bit more action and visibility from the sides of you, you know, these fish are going to locate that a lot easier when you're working the water column, not just sitting it on the bottom stagnant. All right. Well, oh, I lost him. That fish just came out of nowhere and smashed that tube, and I lost him. Oh man. So one other trick with this technique is on the way down when you're dropping your bait, drop it quick, and every so often just stop it and see what's happening. You know, a fish may dart in and grab it. The fall really attracts lake trout, and when you just drop it straight to bottom, you know, you do have them follow it all the way sometimes, but not always are they going to follow it all the way to the bottom. So just stop it periodically on the way down, and there's no set interval. Just whenever you feel like you need to pause it there, give it a pause, and then give it a couple jigs and drop it back down to bottom, because you never know when you may have grabbed a fish's attention and you know, one darts in and grabs it or hits it on the fall, or he's chasing it full speed and he's just waiting for it to stop. So definitely try pausing it and stopping it on the way down, and you know, you'll never know what'll happen, but if you have live scope or anything like that, the Mega Live, that will definitely tell you if something is chasing it, so you could know when to pause it. But if you don't have that kind of electronics with you, just pause it randomly on the way down and it'll give you more opportunity to catch a fish. There's one. Oh, just smashed that. Come on. That fish just came in on the live scope and hammered this bait. I was just bringing it up slowly from the bottom like the technique I showed, and this fish just came in and smashed it. He came in from underneath, like we said, and he's just up to the hole here. Come on, there he is. Not a big laker, but hey, check that out. That fish came in and smashed that tube jig with the VMC bladed treble. And that's so much fun, just getting these fish. Look at that barbless hook, comes right out. But the VMC bladed treble on the bottom of that tube, and check that out. A nice little laker. This guy is small for what we're after, but hey, that's still a lot of fun. I'm gonna get him right back in the water, and we're gonna see what else we can get.